Hey guys, and welcome back to the MLB DFS Slurve video here on YouTube. It is August 8th, 2020, and we are talking MLB DFS for the main slate tonight. Specifically going to be diving into the FanDuel app here, talking about some of my favorite pitchers, stacks, and of course one-off bats to help you round out your lineups for tonight's main slate. We are talking MLB DFS FanDuel pricing, as of course we're looking into the app here, but a lot of this same information does apply to DraftKings, so whether you're playing DraftKings or FanDuel, I hope you find these videos useful. As always, I thank you guys for taking the time to find this channel. Click on this video. Hope you guys do find this information useful. We put out videos every single night, specifically on Wednesdays, Fridays, and hopefully tomorrow, another weekend day, we'll put out full-length, in-depth videos. These Slurve videos in particular, are meant to be much more quicker, just covering some of my top plays for the night. It is really early on Saturday. A lot of these lineups, of course, aren't out. A lot of the lines, Vegas lines, will change. Some of the pitching might even change, and of course, pay attention to weather. But to get some information out here early to you guys, to make sure you guys are prepared for tonight's main slate, we are diving into the picks. Of course, if you're new here or simply haven't done so already, please make sure you are subscribed to No Huddle Fantasy Sports. As I mentioned, we're trying to put out videos every single day for MLB. It is my favorite sport in particular for DFS. And if you followed us over the past week or so, we've done really well. Even last night, some of the pitchers, it was a slower night in terms of actual total scores scored in games. But we had a great night again last night. We took down one tournament this week. So all good things here. Just make sure you are subscribed. Hit that subscribe button and follow us here at No Huddle Fantasy Sports. So without wasting too much more time, let's just dive into tonight's slate. Let's pick a random contest for the 7:05 main slate over on FanDuel. And start with the pitchers here. Again, like most nights, it just does not seem like there's a lot of quality pitchers going around this year. I don't know what the reasoning is. Maybe things just aren't lining up yet. But we're really, really narrow again, starting at the top here. 10,600 is Clayton Kershaw. I mean, I don't know how you go anywhere else, especially in cash games. It's the safest play by far. It's, of course, the most expensive play here, but it is Clayton Kershaw. I'm not arguing that he is the same pitcher he was 5 years ago, but he's still a great pitcher, just battling some injuries over the last couple of years. He had a great first start of the season against Arizona, playing in Arizona. 5+ innings, 3 hits, 6 strikeouts, scored 41 FanDuel points and got the W. The big thing here is he's playing at home against San Francisco, a team he has seen and the Dodgers have seen time and time again. They play them, a ridiculous amount of times throughout the year, both in San Francisco and at home. And with that, he's had a ton of success. But in particular for tonight, San Francisco is only projected to score 2.91 runs. Not the greatest lineup they've put together in San Francisco, a team rebuilding. So a very, very low, if not the lowest, Vegas run total. All good things here for Clayton Kershaw. He shouldn't have to face, like I mentioned, a tough lineup, and Vegas is not projecting that San Francisco lineup to score too many runs. The Dodgers themselves are huge favorites here at minus. Last I checked was 340, up from 300. So they are huge favorites. You're talking about a good 75% chance of the Dodgers winning the game. So for FanDuel in particular, if you're trying to get that W, DraftKings too, that's a huge advantage for Clayton Kershaw here, even if he only goes 5 or 6 innings. If he gets that quality start, if he doesn't give up any runs, and they get that W, all good things. He is projected the highest on the slate in terms of Vegas total for strikeouts at 6.5. He's always been a dominant strikeout pitcher. May not be, like I mentioned, as dominant as he was in the past, but still a guy that can rack up 6 to 10 strikeouts any given night. And I already mentioned he has a great history like the Dodgers versus San Francisco. Particularly in his career, he's faced them 49 times. San Francisco has only hit a 200 total average against him, and he's had a 28% strikeout rate. And that's against good and bad San Francisco teams. So again, just a really good spot for an expensive 10-6 Clayton Kershaw here for the Dodgers. Should get the win, should get the W, shouldn't give up very many runs, if any at all, and still get a good number of strikeouts. I like Clayton Kershaw. I know most people do tonight. He'll be highly owned, but still it's hard to not go with Clayton Kershaw. Another guy you could quickly look at here is Paddock for the San Diego Padres. Again, another guy pitching at home. You always have to like that. He's in a good spot versus Arizona. Arizona only projected 3.95 runs tonight, and at $9,100, you're saving what, $1,500, a little bit more. Actually, yeah, $1,500 off of Clayton Kershaw. So it could help you out there a little bit. I think he'll be lower owned than Kershaw, but all of the ownership tonight will be concentrated between these two guys. So keep that in mind. Solid for cash games. You're going to have to get creative for tournaments with your bats if you're going to go with these guys, or you're going to have to go elsewhere. I will talk about one more pitcher. But as I mentioned, Arizona not projected to score too many runs tonight. The Padres at home are minus 178 favorites. So you're looking at a 60-65% chance of the Padres winning based upon the Vegas totals. Again, good things here. You want the W's for these FanDuel pitchers. He is projected number 2 on the board at 6 strikeouts tonight. And Arizona in general, they've actually hit here and now again so far in 2020, but in general versus right-handers, they are bottom 5 in 2020. I know there's not a lot of stats out this year, but in terms of 2020 and how they fared against right-handed pitchers, they have a 296 WOBA and a really low 124 ISO. So just not only are they not hitting the ball, they're not hitting the ball very hard against right-handers this year. And Chris Paddock, he's a very good pitcher, if not the top pitcher for the Padres. You can see here he's pitched 6 innings, 5 innings, and 6 innings against decent teams. You're talking about he already pitched against Arizona, so we can point that out at first. Had a good game, first start of the season. I think he had a limited pitch count, still scored 40 FanDuel points, so keep that in mind. Again, at home against Arizona earlier this year, did well. We have that again tonight. And he pitched against the Dodgers, and he really fared pretty well. Quality start here, 1 win, 34 FanDuel points. So I do like Paddock. I think he's safe again tonight. Now, the tricky part is if you want to go anywhere else with pitching tonight. It's a difficult slate. There's not a lot of guys. I mean, you have Johnny Cueto as a name. You have Chase Anderson on here. Zach Godley's just pitching in Boston, and he hasn't been good, very good lately. So where can you go if you want to? And I'm not necessarily recommending this as a good play, but if you want to be different, and I think if you're trying to really take down a large tournament, you have to tonight. I would slightly consider Jake Odorizzi. And this is a tough pill to swallow, but first of all, he's pitching against Kansas City in Kansas City. So he is a road pitcher. That's not necessarily the best thing in the world, but Kansas City is a pitcher-friendly ballpark. I said it the other night, and who was it? Tyler Chatwood got mauled. An actual really good pitcher got mauled in Kansas City by the Kansas City Royals. I don't know how much I like this play, but it is, again, a different play. You're saving a ton of money here. You're saving he owes only $8,100, so you're saving $2,000+ off the top dogs on the slate. Helps you get a lot of bats in, particularly on FanDuel. But again, Odorizzi here, pitching for Minnesota. He should have tons of run support. Minnesota in particular is the highest projected run total team. Minnesota is the highest projected run total on the slate. So that fares well in terms of him getting run support, playing against Duffy, who's just not a good pitcher, and a lot of people will be stacking Minnesota in particular. So hopefully he can go, potentially 5 innings here, 4 or 5 innings, get the quality start, get the win, and maybe he can stretch out to, 9 or 10 strikeouts. We've seen it in the past, but this is his first start of the season, so I don't know if he'll be limited. It's not a great thing if he is. But if we can get 5 or 6 strikeouts, go 4 or 5 innings, hopefully get the W, get the quality start, he can give up 2 or 3 runs. It's okay here. You're just trying to get a cheaper pitcher and get value out of him, which I think you can. I mentioned already, Minnesota projected to get a lot of runs, a lot of support here. The good thing is they are minus 148 favorites. It's about another 60% win percentage for the Minnesota team here and for Odorizzi. So if he can squeeze in that 5th inning and possibly get us that W, that'll be good. But he's also tied with Paddock here at number 2 in terms of strikeouts with 6. So Vegas is projecting him to get a lot of strikeouts, or at least a good number relatively compared to the slate. Now keep that in mind. We are talking about the guys on the slate here. I'm not arguing Odorizzi is better or played next to Scherzer or anyone. The slate is pretty terrible outside of the top 2 guys, and this is what we're dealing with. But in terms of Kansas City, again, a pitcher's ballpark, fly balls stay in the park there. You really have to hit the ball to get it out of the park. It's a pitcher's park, and then the Royals themselves, an okay lineup. They've hit some right-handers so far this year, but just middle of the pack, 306 WOBA, 179 ISO, nothing to write home about. And again, talking about Odorizzi, he's a guy that has a history against them. He pitched, right here you can see, last June, pitched back-to-back games against them. First game against them, 33. Second game was only 6. So maybe that was due to back-to-backs. They're used to seeing him. But we can hopefully get, like I mentioned, a W out of him and maybe 6 strikeouts. He can certainly pay off at his price tag. So what about stacks? Where are we looking for bats today? My first stack of the night is going to be Boston. I know they haven't hit very well this year. They're playing at home, though, in Toronto. Of course, you have a ton of big bats on that lineup like Martinez, but there are a number of, I think, value bats that are going to help this lineup round out. On top of that, they are projected to score 5.22 runs, one of the highest on the slate. So Vegas is favoring them tonight. You have to like that. The big thing here is they are facing, let me pull him up here, Chase Anderson. And Chase Anderson, in my opinion, is one of the worst pitchers, not only on the slate, but in the MLB right now. He gives up a ton of fly balls, a ton of home runs. It doesn't really matter. Let me go to pitching here. I believe he used to pitch for Milwaukee. Now he's pitching for Toronto. He's moved around a bit. He's an older pitcher, but this guy just, you can see some of his game logs. Just he gives up a ton of runs, 10 right there. I mean, he gives up a ton of home runs. Universally bad in xFIP, K percentage, and fly ball percentage, both lefties and righties. He is a right-handed pitcher, so you have a favorable split matchup if you go with a lefty, but you don't have to worry about that. You can just take straight up stacks against him, left and right-handed bats, like I mentioned. xFIP indicating he's just generally not good against left or righties, or against batters in general. K percentage is really, really low. He's not really striking anyone out. I believe both lefties and righties are striking out less than 20% versus him, and he's giving up a 40-45% fly ball rate. So half the balls are going in the air, fly balls, against Chase Anderson. In Boston, that can easily turn into a deadly combination, and for that reason, I really like the Boston stack. In particular, though, I did mention right on right here can be beneficial. They've really lit him up. Right-handers have lit up Chase Anderson from the right side of the plate. Hard hit percent really high, and his home runs per 9 to right-handers is number 2 on the slate at 2.09. So he's giving up, in 9 innings, 2 home runs to right-handed bats. That's really, really high. More importantly, his WOBA versus right-handers is number 1 on the slate. So again, just a really bad situation. But the stack here, of course, the ones I want to talk about in particular, so you can easily fit Martinez if you go Devers. And one of my favorite plays tonight is Benintendi. Let's find him in this. He's going to be leading off for them. He's $2,500. That then gets you your Martinez. It can get you whoever else you want to go with here. If you want to go Bogarts, if you want to save a little bit of money and go with a lefty and Moreland, there are a number of options here to easily fit a Boston stack. That's what projected them all the way to the top of my list in terms of stacks for the night. So another stack I would consider, though, is Colorado. And I'm trying to be different here, as I mentioned, with Boston and Colorado. I think a lot of people will be stacking Minnesota. A lot of people will be stacking the Dodgers, which I'm going to suggest is not a bad idea. A lot of people hopefully will stack Toronto, which I'm not going to be doing. But trying to be different here in Colorado. Colorado is they're playing in Seattle and facing, if I'm going to pronounce this guy's name wrong, he's a left-hander, Margevicius, I believe. In any case, they're playing in Seattle. The guy, in general, Colorado's projected 4.38 runs. Here, I'll bring up the pitcher they're facing just so we have a quick look into that. Margevicius. That's how I'll pronounce it. Seattle's pitcher here, a guy that doesn't last very long in the game. So far this season, 1, 2, 2. Those are his total innings. He's given up, a couple of runs in every game, but there's not a lot of stats on him. He just barely, I think I had 19 or 20 innings to pull back from per left and right splits from 2019. So there's not a lot to go with here. I'll fully admit that we don't have a ton of statistics to pull on this guy, but he's just on the cusp of something I would consider this season. And I'm talking about this season. We're in a weird season, of course, but he's top 5. If you count him, he's top 5 in almost all the advanced metrics, whether you're talking WOBA, xFIP, fly ball percentage, hard hit percentage, K percentage is really low, and home runs per 9. All those statistics, he's on the top 5 for the slate. So this guy gets lit up, at least according to the stats right now. In Colorado, being that this guy is a left-handed pitcher, Colorado, we know, is just loaded with right-handed at-bats, right-handed power bats, whether it's Story or Arenado. And then, more importantly, the left-handed bats, such as Blackmon, hit lefties well. So you can kind of fully stack Colorado, in my opinion, and be confident that they'll take advantage of this guy. But I mentioned earlier, this guy's only going 1 or 2 innings. The most important thing is and that's you're going to get exposure with this stack to the Seattle bullpen, which still is one of the worst in baseball. Coming into the season, they were projected to be one of the worst in baseball, and they certainly are. I like that. I like getting exposure to that. We've attacked that several times. As I mentioned, Story, Arenado, Blackmon. You can go a number of different ways here. You can go left, you can go right. The only lefty I would really consider is Blackmon. Outside of that, like Murphy, I don't know if I would take him. It's definitely a way to get cute here and get different if you're trying to do that. But definitely Arenado and Story are on my list. I do like, in general, a stack from Colorado. Another stack I would consider here, I'm sure they're going to be popular, are the Dodgers. They're facing Johnny Cueto. Cueto, just an average pitcher at best. He actually hasn't pitched much over the last couple of years. He's been injured off and on. He's pitched in San Francisco. But if we date back to 2017, I wrote some notes here. His xFIP has been 450 or higher since 2017, and every single year since 17, his home run per 9 has been trending up. That's dangerous considering he's pitched in San Francisco. In his earlier career, he was a Cincinnati pitcher. He was a really good pitcher for Cincinnati, kept the ball in the park there. So you're going from a very hitter-friendly park to a more pitcher-friendly park, and all of your numbers are getting worse. So certainly not good signs. I don't think Johnny Cueto is very good. I just think that there's not a lot of statistics on him simply because he's been injured off and on. But pitched a couple times last year, as I mentioned. Nothing really to write home about from that perspective. No real game log. And then in terms of this year, you can see he's had 3 total starts, never lasted more than 5 innings, probably on a little bit of a pitch count, but has given up runs, including 4 earned runs against the Padres in every single game, and that was a home game in San Francisco. So at this point of his career, he's just not the same pitcher as he used to be. And more importantly, we're talking about the Dodgers, one of the better teams in all of baseball. The Dodgers right now projected at 5.09 runs. So in particular, I do like stacking the Dodgers tonight. A lot of different ways you can go. You can play your Muncies. You can play your Bellingers, your big left-handed at-bats. Mookie Betts, it doesn't matter. The dude's a monster. In Los Angeles in general is hitting right-handers. So Johnny Cueto is a righty. Hitting right-handers at a really good clip in 2020. Again, I know it's limited, but they're number 2 in WOBA at 352. They're number 1 in ISO, so isolated power against right-handers at 230. Playing at home, Cueto on the road. Again, 5.09 runs projected for the Dodgers. Just not good things adding up for Cueto tonight. I really like that. And more importantly, there are some values that help you fit this lineup. I'm going to keep playing Jock Peterson. I think he's too cheap. Hopefully he hits top of the order again tonight. He did last night at number 1. That makes him even more of attractive value. Seager has really hit Cueto in terms of a history very well. Seager, Bellinger, and who was the third person? Turner have all hit Cueto over the last few years very, very well. You have a lot of options here. This lineup is absolutely loaded. You can play it a number of different ways, but your Peterson is probably your value play here. The problem with Corey Seager is he got hurt last night. We're going to just have to pay attention to that, so keep that in mind. He is the best numbers in terms of total numbers versus Johnny Cueto, but in general, he was hurt, so keep an eye on that. But I do really like the Dodgers. They're my 3rd favorite stack, and that's only because I believe they're going to be highly owned. So it's going to be tough to go with your Kershaws and your Paddock and then stack them. You're going to be very, very similar to other players. So keep that in mind. Get a little creative here. And so that really wraps up the stacks for the night. Talked about pitchers, talked about stacks. What about some one-off bats? This guy's going to be highly owned, but I don't know how you go anywhere else. You got to play Nelson Cruz versus left-handers. Nelson Cruz versus Danny. Is it Danny? Yeah, Danny Duffy tonight is just, it's just money. It's Nelson Cruz versus a lefty. The dude takes some yard like a ridiculous clip. But beyond that, he actually has a history versus Duffy, a very good history, multiple home runs, 333 average. Nelson Cruz, easily my favorite one-off bat for the night. Even I'm willing to eat the chalk. I know he's going to be highly owned. In that same game, you can go with Sanu. A guy left or right on left again here in Kansas City. Same lineup, hitting cleanup typically hitting cleanup for Minnesota. Again, Duffy, just not a very good pitcher. You can stack against Duffy, certainly, and a lot of people will be doing that tonight. Minnesota, the highest projected run total for the night for a team, but I won't be doing that. I don't think. I'm just trying to get different, as I mentioned time and time again. But Sano is certainly a good bat to consider to get exposure to that lineup and as a one-off. I do like Christian Yelich tonight. He is a bit expensive. Number 3 on the board here at $4,100, but he's starting to heat up. great bat, MVP candidate. I mean, this guy is constantly just hitting the ball well year and year again. But he had an inside the park home run the other night. Last night he actually had a regular home run. Starting to hit the ball more and more, has multiple hits in a couple of games so far this year. So, again, I like Christian Yelich. I think he's playing well. Playing in Milwaukee, a hitter's park. DeSclafani is the pitcher he's facing. It's a good matchup there, left on right. Already talked about a lot of the Dodgers guys, but Cody Bellinger, Jock Peterson stands out. I mentioned that already. I just want to reiterate, Jock Peterson stands out at that $3,200 price tag, hopefully hitting number 1. Again, fits well into a stack, but I would also take him as a one-off pitcher. I do want to mention some Boston players. Benintendi, I'm going to keep playing him. He's hitting leadoff for Boston. I'm going to be stacking Boston. Benintendi at $2,500 is just a steal. He will start hitting. I know he hasn't done much this year. 12 points was his best outing so far this year, but I mean, he hasn't been the worst player in the world. I'll give it to you that, well, maybe he has. He's hitting .061, so that is pretty bad. But we know the history of this guy. He's been in the league for a few years now. He's a guy that hits. He's atop of that dangerous Boston lineup. JD Martinez is backing him up. So I do like Benintendi. I'm going to keep playing him at $2,500. He also gets me exposure to that high run total projected Boston team. The other player I would consider from Boston as a one-off is Rafael Devers. Again, trying to save some money here, $3,400. Good price tag on him. Typically hitting 2 or 3 out of the Boston, followed by JD Martinez. Left on right here, playing against Toronto. I do like Devers. Tried to find you guys some values here. In particular, there's a couple of guys that stand out. Travis Shaw for Toronto, playing in Boston, so flipping to the other side of the game here. He's only $2,500. Toronto, surprisingly, is the number 2 projected run total on the night. So a team that should be scoring runs. I do like Travis Shaw. I know he hasn't played much. He was a good player for Milwaukee for a number of years. Good left-handed bat, has shown power. But for $2,500, again, we're trying to find some value here, playing in a park that favors lefty power. David Ortiz, just, his history in Boston, other left-handed at bats. Power bats, did very, very well, obviously, in Boston. And then I want to mention Justin Upton here. He unfortunately has been bumped down. Hopefully that was just because they were facing a righty. I'm not totally positive, but playing in Texas Heat, the ball flies there. I like LA the last couple nights as a stack, but I like Justin Upton. His price is only $2,700. He's getting a left-on-right matchup here against his Allard. I don't have much information on Allard. He is a younger pitcher without many statistics. There's at least enough to really communicate to you guys. I do like the matchup here, but in particular, I like getting exposure at $2,700, a top 5 team in terms of run projected. I do like Justin Upton at that price tag. Last but not least here, getting a little bit more exposure, if I can find him, Mitch Garver here for Minnesota. He leads off sometimes versus left-handed pitchers. He's done it a couple times this year. Nothing to write home about, but $2,400. Again, getting you exposure to that lineup of Minnesota, that high projected run total. He might be one of the lower-owned guys. Unless he's hitting leadoff, a lot of people end up stacking him. But the point here is $2,400. You can play him with your Jock Petersons, with your Justin Uptons. There's a bunch of Benintendi. That's going to help you save money to get your Kershaws in. So that's the last guy I would mention here. And that's really it. I hope this video is helpful for you guys. Obviously, we didn't set lineups here. We talked about some of our favorite pitchers. We're down to 3 guys. My favorite 3 stacks, and then some of the one-off bats here. Please leave a comment down below if I've missed anything. As I mentioned, it's really early on Saturday, so things will change. As we get closer, make sure you follow me at NoHuddleFS on Twitter. I'll post my kind of final thoughts, final picks before lock. Again, we're really early here. Things will change. Vegas lines will move. Lineups will come out. People won't be starting. There's a bunch of different things that could happen here. But in general, these are the thoughts on tonight's main slate DFS. This is the Slurve video here at No Huddle Fantasy Sports. Please make sure you are subscribed to the channel. Leave some comments down below. And also, if you're interested, I've been using the Daily Fantasy Nerd Optimizer. It's an incredible lineup optimizer, especially from MLB. I've been using it, I'm not kidding, for at least the last 5 years. But affiliate link down below. If you want to check it out for a free month, please click that link, check it out. It's how I put these videos together. It helps me collect my thoughts, but more importantly, it helps me fit in those random value plays. When you find a lineup, you put a lineup together and you need 1 or 2 more spots but don't know where to go, Daily Fantasy Nerd is going to hook you up there. So please check that out below. Again, leave me some comments. Let me know your thoughts on the slate. With that said, good luck tonight, and I'll catch you in the next video.